shrinking databases with DBCC shrink database. And what this does is it reduces the overall size of the data, or I should say data and or log files to reclaim disk space. Now, the problem with shrink database is that it just kind of tries to make the file as small as possible, independent of how things are going to perform or what other impact that has on your system. So can you think of some reasons why we would say that this is bad, or why you would not do it routinely?
I mean, some of the things that we've run into when we've seen shrink database or DBCC shrink database is some index fragmentation, or it can cause massive index fragmentation. It can also reverse page order, which will lead to poor performance on future reads and writes. And then that space often just fills up again quickly due to the auto growth taking back up.
Yep, and that last one, filling up, or the space filling up again, yeah, that's a real world example that we've seen on many occasions where someone shrinks the entire database and the log file, like maybe nightly on a maintenance plan or something like that, and then the very next day they grow back immediately, causing excess slowdowns. So here's the thing, with SQL Server, when you're growing or shrinking a file, that causes additional blocking on different parts of your database. So if you're going to do a massive shrink, it's going to cause some blocking and a lot of I/O slowdown while things get moved around in that database. And then if it needs to grow again through auto growth, what's going to happen is the database is going to expand. And there's a lot of blocking that occurs while that happens. And making sure that your database files are properly sized is a smart thing to do. But having auto shrink run or running shrink database, DBCC shrink database, is not a good idea. So that brings us to DBCC shrink file as part of the recommendation here, where shrink database just kind of goes and blindly shrinks your database, all your database files, however many you have, and your log file. But sometimes you'll end up in a situation where maybe you've had some growth, maybe you've done an import table, or maybe you've got a bunch of data in a database that is getting smaller over time and you want to free up some of that space. Well, we're not saying don't ever shrink your files. We're just saying don't use the DBCC shrink database command. Now, sometimes if your log file is grown, you want to make that smaller, you can use shrink file, DBCC shrink file on that, or you can use it on your data files as well. But we just generally don't recommend doing it as like a nightly practice, because it just causes a whole lot of I/O that's just going to make your performance worse in the long run. Any other thoughts on that one, Mitch?
I think, like you said, it's important to do your sizing beforehand. It's a planning item to look at your file sizing beforehand instead of trying to run DBCC shrink database to manage file sizes on your drives beforehand. So that's a separate conversation on proper drive sizing, but you shouldn't be using this as a solution.
Right. And if you are going to use shrink file to go and adjust it on a specific, like a one-off basis here or there, you should do that during a maintenance hour or maintenance time, where it's after hours or sometimes where there's not a lot of load on your system, because it will impact the performance while it's going on. And yes, there are cases where you might need to shrink a file. Make sure the system's not under load when you're doing it. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like it, please click the thumbs up icon. And if you want to subscribe, click subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get notified when we have new videos. All right, have a great day.